One question I've been seeing a lot by people who have been getting shafted is, Gikku, I'm 60 pity in. Should I continue on Bankai Ichigo or should I switch and wait for Toshiro? So we're going to answer that question in today's video, where we're going to compare the two units we have available. I'm going to start off by giving a couple of things revolving around the gacha, things that you should know before making your decision. Number two, we're going to go into gameplay explaining how Bankai Ichigo works, how Toshiro works, because I do think in games like this, one of the most important factors is, will you enjoy the unit? And number three, we're going to talk about which, in my opinion, value-wise is better. So if people really care about that value and really pushing content, pushing the meta, I think that that last part is going to be for you. So I'm trying to target all the different parts of the community that are unsure of what to do when it comes to these two. Now, why am I mentioning Toshiro exactly? For those that don't know, he's coming out on week 3. So that's something very important. So getting into the gacha, what's the important things I want to mention? Number one, pity transfers. So if you're at like 60 pity, that 60 pity, if it's untouched, is going to go to Toshiro's banner. So keep that in mind, okay? If you're at 60 pity, you didn't continue summoning, it will be on Toshiro's banner when he comes out on the 5th. Number two, the other important thing to know is, how many pulls are you getting? Well, month 1 of Bleach Soul Resonance, you could be expecting about 250 pulls, right? Including all the content. So if you don't do the content, obviously that's going to be a bit lower. But with all these other events we have that we're going to be getting, for example, we have a main event, joint exercise, and then afterwards, I'm pretty sure that Frost Spirit Gift is going to be the other main event, but Toshiro does have a main event. So back-to-back main events where we should get pulls. Our pull currency right now is looking to be about 200 month 1 without these other events. So probably closer to 220 to 250 in that range. So keep that in mind. In the future, my personal guess is you're going to be getting between 90 to 110 pulls per month. So with that in mind, that means you're going to be getting about 1 unit a month. So, you know, maybe if you summon less now, in the future, you'll be able to summon for more units that are more hyper, right? Units that aren't directly from Soul Society. It's going to be up to you guys, but I've made 2 videos talking about the leaks. So if you want to go check those out, they're pretty clear which thumbnails they are. Now then, let's go for Bankai Ichigo and explain how this guy works. So Ichigo is the first slash DPS. He is a DPS SSR. And this guy's going to be very simple. He's going to have 3 things to him. First of all, being he has a mini Getsuga, right? And with that mini Getsuga, he could chain in to a flurry of an enhanced attack. If you have the stamp weapon, you're going to be able to get the other 2 Ichigos. And you could do this outside of the skill, so you could activate this. And what the best part about that is you could activate this enhanced and go into someone else, and it's still going to be playing. Number 2 is going to be he has a transformed state where he has extra skills. When you have the gear stamp, you're able to use a counter attack without actually doing the counter. And obviously he's doing way more damage and applies some strong debuffs. The number 3 is he is a nuker. So getting this ult does take a while. Okay, you're not getting this right away, but the damage is extremely high. Keep in mind that's non-support damage. So we did 300k without really building up and stuff. So yes, Ichigo's damage is extremely high. So Ichigo himself is more of a nuker, and I would say works very well with someone like Byakuya. Now, why am I saying this? Well, if we activate Byakuya, we're going to get his field skills, and you're going to see activating the skill lets you get that attack. Then if you do the enhanced normal, you could do another battle skill, and then you could do another one. So every time you do this, you're going to be able to activate one of Byakuya's skills on the left. And then with Kisuke, you're going to be able to kind of chain this in very nicely. So yes, for the most part, Ichigo works extremely well with both Byakuya and Kisuke, allowing you to have a pretty much quick swap team. So let's go over to Toshiro now after, right? If you would like to play him yourself before Toshiro comes out, when you get to chapter 7, the 11th stage will actually be featuring Toshiro. So you're going to be able to try him out before he comes out. And here we go. So he's going to have also a Bankai state. Now, outside of it, he's going to get stacks, and when it fills up, he's going to be able to use a transformed skill, and this is going to allow him to do kind of a skill afterwards where it kind of makes it that Hyorinmaru is following him. Now, when we do get the ult, which you could see overall, well, actually, I didn't show Bankai Ichigo's ult, like how quick it took, but getting his ult, you'll see that, well, I mean, it's a full transformation. So this guy now is going to be transforming, and it changes his normals where you're going to be spamming this. And every time you fill up those 5 stacks at the bottom, you get to use a transform skill. And I'm going to guess one of the stamps is going to allow you to do a counterattack follow-up. So I'm not talking about that. When you get the stacks, you use the basic skill, then afterwards you could counterattack. And you can do that every time you get one of those 5 stacks, one of those 5 diamonds on his spiritual pressure gauge, and then you could do those 2. So as you can see, Toshiro doesn't really leave, right? If you're not going to use his ult, he's not going to leave. Now, I'm pretty sure when he does switch characters, which obviously we can't switch characters, when he does switch characters, it will get him out of it, but let's ult. And when he does ult, he does in fact get out of his Bankai state, and that is unfortunate that it just lagged there. So yes, now he's out of it, but immediately he's going to be able to get that extra transform skill after Bankai with one of his stamps. So that's basically how Toshiro is going to work. Besides that, another thing that he does do is freeze. So going from, like, talking about freeze, mini interlude, Toshiro is spirit, just to make sure they actually do show that he is spirit. So let's just make sure that's understood. Now, Toshiro freezing is extremely strong when you also consider that Rukia herself does freeze. Pretty sure guaranteed with ult and the battlefield skill can freeze. I guess it is guaranteed. So with that double freeze, I think Toshiro's is only a chance to freeze, and Rukia having that guaranteed chance, you're going to be looking pretty good to where you're going to have a double freeze team, and pushing tower in this is very strong. Now, why am I saying that? Well, it's mainly because in tower, there's a lot of bosses where they're going to have these kind of transformations. For example, Yami, which I'm not going to lie, this guy was annoying as hell. And one of the things you can do, and one of the things I've seen kind of being cheesed, is you kind of freeze him so he doesn't go into that kind of state that's going to waste time. And double freeze with Toshiro is going to be extremely strong. Now, furthermore, with Rukia, she does have extra skills like the A6 that's going to be lowering the enemy's resistance. So as a tactic unit, she is going to be very strong alongside the GOAT Toshiro. So definitely keep that in mind, that you're going to have a unit which, if you have the SR, she is going to be very good. Obviously, right now she's not insane. Main reason is because every other tactic unit for the SSRs are going to be a better usage if you have them, but Rukia with Toshiro is going to be nice, so there is that. Now, we basically went over the gameplay, how they work. Now let's kind of get into which one you should summon on. So for Bankai Ichigo, he's very strong. Currently, he is the best DPS, and Toshiro before was considered a worse DPS than Ichigo. Now, keep in mind that was in a previous beta, so we've been able to play him in every other beta. Now, what we have to keep in mind is, well, number one, that could change. And number two, under the assumption that Bankai Ichigo is still better, in my personal opinion, I still think Toshiro is higher value. Now, keep in mind, if you did a reroll, got Bankai Ichigo in like 30 pulls, you're fine, right? I'm just saying, for those who are like, okay, I'm not rerolling, I'm 60 pulls in, I'm 50 pulls in, I'm thinking of only getting Toshiro or Ichigo, which one should I get? I'm going to say Toshiro. Now, the first reason, well, is because of the fact that blue is much less built. There's no blue SSR, not one. These are the only SSRs in game. There's 2 thrust, 2 strike, and 3/0 spirit. Now, obviously, mono content does matter. Okay, we know this. Trial Tower, progressing later without a spirit is going to be nigh impossible. Okay, already I'm finding it difficult with an A3 Ichigo to really get through Grimmjow because I'm not doing enough damage, but you are doing 80% less damage if you're not spirit. So you're going to need a blue DPS, which right now, I don't think Ururu is cutting it. Okay, let me just be real. So there is that fact that just in general, the value for Trial Tower, also cooperative campaign is there. Is it? I feel like I'm not tweaking. I really do feel like I'm not tweaking. If we go into the details, I'm pretty sure at some point you will see that Yami takes more damage from strike and from spirit. So because of that, I feel like I am tweaking though, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. However, that's also for Frenzy Feast, there are mono bosses, right? So for example, there was a slash last week, a slash this week, there was strike last week, and this week there's also thrust. So because of that, you're going to be needing blue for some of these game modes, and you know, having it built out doesn't really hurt that much. So if we just compare value-wise, I think you're kind of better off getting Ichigo. Of course, like I said, if you rerolled for Ichigo, got him early, this doesn't really affect you, okay? Now, why I'm saying that also is because you have 2 amazing SSRs, with Byakuya actually being a pretty good DPS, with his weapon also getting damage increases, whatnot. So, you know, you have to keep that in mind. With Byakuya and his field skill, he works very, very well as a sub DPS. Now, what you can do is run someone like Bankai Ichigo. I don't think initial Ichigo would cut it, but I do think Bankai Ichigo has a good chance of working for you. Not as effectively, of course. However, I think it can work. Personally, I've gotten him A6, so obviously being A6, he's going to be a bit stronger, right? So as a red DPS, I think you could run this for now, especially if you're looking to run and pull Kenpachi, because Kenpachi as of right now is looking to be Slash. In the previous betas, he was Slash, and more recent info has shown that he's going to be Slash. Could that change? Yes, that could. But I think it's very possible that he is Slash. So Bankai Ichigo, even if Kenpachi is Slash, which we are going to assume he's a DPS, I brought this point up in previous videos that Bankai Ichigo is probably going to be ran as a kind of dual DPS team comp. Bankai Ichigo, Kenpachi, you're going to be swapping back and forth very quickly with them in a quick swap type of team. And because of Bankai Ichigo's flurry of attacks with the enhanced normal, which we see here, I think it's going to work out very nicely, to be honest. So because you could swap out, you could do the enhanced normal, swap out, Kenpachi could do damage, you go to Kisuke for a bit, swap back into Ichigo, apply another normal, go into Kenny and do his like ult and stuff. That's probably how it's going to end up working. So because of that, I think you can run it with Kenpachi. And if you do want to, then you could, of course, get Bankai Ichigo if you haven't yet. But if we're saying you're only going to get one red DPS and one blue DPS, then probably stick more towards getting Toshiro, in my opinion. Now, you are going to be, unfortunately, probably progressing a bit slower at that point. But personally, as I said, this is the value just value like discussion. And through that, I do think that Toshiro will actually be at least a little bit higher value, even if he may be a little weaker. However, that could change very easily, right? We haven't seen him yet in game, not fully official yet. I mean, specifically his kit, right? We don't know the values and all that, but I think that, you know, both of these units are fun. That's the thing. So you could check out the gameplay that I just did in this video, see which one you'd rather, and then afterwards you can make your decision through that. But in terms of value, right, there are replacements for Ichigo with better supports, right? Having Byakuya and Kisuke is what makes me think, would you rather run an SR DPS with 2 SSR red supports, or would you rather run a blue SR DPS with 2 SR supports and them not being as good, not nearly as good, and also doing way less damage? While red could pick up the damage with Kisuke and Byakuya, I would not say that Rukia and Orihime are picking up the damage for Ururu, okay? So because of that, my final thoughts on this is between the two, if you had to pick one, because you don't want to reroll, you're late in pity, I would say go for Toshiro. Now, when we get more official information, this will be updated, but since we've already played him, we know how he works, unless they've directly nerfed him, and even if they did, we have to keep in mind there's a certain level, a certain strength that SSRs have, that as a main DPS, especially because he could freeze, that double cheese team with Rukia will be extremely strong. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope you learned what you wanted to learn, and we will be back I'm going to be pretty excited on the 28th, on Friday. Joint exercise is pretty much a main event. That's going to give a good amount of rewards. And then afterwards, Toshiro's release is also going to have a main event with a lot of different parts to it. So expect a good amount of currency to be gotten in the next couple weeks. Hopefully also with the voice line bug, we get more currency so that everyone could summon on Bankai Ichigo and Toshiro. But for those who are only going to summon on one or the other, my final say on this is Toshiro.